Podcaster's Guide to the Conspiracy, brought to you today by Josh Edison and Dr. M. Dentith. Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Podcaster's Guide to the Conspiracy, or as I like to call it, the way that Socrates got lynched, because today's special episode features not just myself, Dr. M.R.X. Dentith, and Josh Edison, but Josh has thought it wise to bring his children in to be corrupted by a philosopher, the kind of thing that happened to Socrates. And what happened to Socrates after he corrupted the youth, Joshua?
He was sentenced to death and drank poison.
So you can see where my academic career is now going.
It's not a lie. So yes, we have Jack, aged 9, and Lucas, aged 6. For the basic reason that it's the school holidays here in New Zealand, and their mum is away on a conference, so I am looking after these two fine gentlemen, and thought, hey, why don't we, instead of skipping a week of recording a podcast, just bring them along and record a podcast with children? What could go wrong? What could go wrong?
Well, your tablet's crashed as usual.
Yeah, that's part of the course.
No, we could drink poison, then always go to sleep.
It's true, you would always go to sleep.
So we thought, since we have children, and since long-time listeners of our podcast may recall, Em is qualified as a primary school teacher and therefore an expert wrangler of children.
I mean, that is technically true.
So we thought we could have a podcast of conspiracy theories for children, and if we're going to really get into the childlike mindset of conspiracy theories, what's the most childish thing we could come up with? Well, QAnon, obviously.
Well, it's either that or do a deep dive into the Donald Trump Ukraine Mueller thing.
Yeah,
but QAnon's more fun.
Probably more suited to the mentality of a child. So we thought we'd see if we can explain QAnon possibly in a way that might make sense to children, or to see whether or not it does at all.
My feet hurt.
It's a good start.
That's a good start.
I mean, learning about QAnon is painful, and the pain has to start now.
Don't know what QAnon is.
Well, that's why you're here.
Yeah.
So
You're here to be educated.
You know who Donald Trump is, right?
Yes.
Yep. Do you know who Barack Obama is?
No.
He was the president before Trump. Do you know who Hillary Clinton is?
No. Clinton Point.
No. Hillary. Oh, you know the Clinton Point? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The Clinton Point comes from her husband Bill Clinton, and he was president in the 90s, and then she ran for president against Donald Trump and lost to Donald Trump this time.
Actually, let's sit back.
Just some of the big
do you
figures.
know what a president is?
Yes.
All right. So what is the president of the United States of America?
Donald Trump.
And what does he do?
What do they do?
Yeah. What does a president do?
What the president does?
Fart.
He probably
I mean, it is true as a human being. He does engage in flatulence like many other human beings. But what else does a president do? So you're dodging the question here.
Frankly, I don't know what a president does, to be perfectly honest. They're in charge of a country, kind of, or at least in charge of 1/3 of the what are they, the three branches of the government. There's the Senate and the Congress and the president, and he's the president.
What?
Exactly. I don't understand.
Had
American
Donald
politics
Trump
is very
sucks?
confusing.
Because he's sucky.
Well, he does have his fair share of detractors.
He's called butt cheeks.
But the point is, now,
that's potty humor.
the point is, the whole thing of the QAnon is, what if Donald Trump doesn't suck? What if Donald Trump is actually a super genius? And when it looks like he's doing all sorts of illegal things and getting in trouble for all sorts of stuff, what if he's actually really hunting down the other people who are doing all sorts of illegal stuff? And any day now, all the people who dislike Donald Trump and are gonna get rounded up and thrown in prison, and everything will be nice.
Which will include people who said Donald Trump sucks.
Quite possibly.
Yay!
Does that...
Is that a yay, I'm going to prison?
Or is it
Because that appears to be a yay, I'm going to prison.
Or is it a yay, Donald Trump's gonna fart?
Probably.
I mean, he could be doing that right now. But it's actually irrelevant to our discussion.
It is a little bit. So the point is that on the internet...
Farting?
Yes. It's not relevant to what we do, right? I'm not saying it's not funny, because it is.
You mean farts?
Yes.
Did you say farts?
Yes. But that's not relevant to this, what we're talking about. The point is that on the internet, this dude showed up and he called himself Q, and he was anonymous, hence QAnon. And he came up with this thing, and he said that what's really happening in the White House is the exact opposite of what looks like is happening in America. And Donald Trump is secretly working to have all his opponents, who are actually the really, really evil people who do all the horrible things in the world. He's working to get them all locked up, and then
as a victory farts.
Yeah,
He finally farts like a baby.
You're listening to the Podcaster's Guide to Farts. Today we'll be talking about farts, and it seems like nothing much besides.
Fart.
So, if a person came to you and said that even though Donald Trump looks like he's a corrupt idiot con man who just makes stuff up off the top of his head every time he's speaking in public, and is incompetent and about to be impeached and has done all sorts of illegal things, if they said that's what it looks like, but what it actually is the exact opposite of that, would you find that in any way convincing?
No, not really.
Because
All right, so
putting
why
stuff
not?
in jail.
Why wouldn't you find that convincing?
I don't know.
I know. Because it makes you...
Does your answer end with... Now, stick with me. Does your answer end with the idea that Donald Trump is flatulent? Okay, so we've skipped to the end.
No,
We've taken your point on board. And we're going back to the original question. So, if you don't think that's convincing, that Donald Trump's actually really a super good guy, the question is, why do you think Donald Trump is a flatulent baby?
You still know how to bring the laughs.
Okay.
But...
That's why I've got a PhD.
Yep. And furthermore, what if I were to tell you that in fact some of these people, like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, who are the ones who are going to be rounded up and arrested...
Wait, who are they again?
Former presidents and presidential hopefuls. What if I told you that these people, who are public figures who everyone knows, and who are still out in public, what if I told you that they've actually already been arrested and put on trial?
And not just that, they've all been executed.
They've been put
and
in
their
prison.
body doubles are wandering around the place.
Okay, that's kind of weird and gross.
And that's kind of flatulent. Flatulent.
Well, actually, no. See,
So
it might be the case that these body doubles don't fart. Maybe that's how we recognise them.
You see, because the theory just keeps going and going. It's not just that things don't appear to be the way they are, and Donald Trump is actually on the side of goodness and light. It also says that first it was these people have already been arrested, but the reason why they're still allowed to walk around is because they have ankle bracelet monitors on, like criminals get given sometimes. And so anytime one of them would appear in public wearing a pair of trousers that was a little bit baggy, they'd say, look, see, that's hiding their ankle monitor bracelets. But now it's gone even further than that. Now it says they've been taken away, locked up in Gitmo, which is the short name for Guantanamo Bay, which is I don't get Guantanamo Bay. It's in Cuba. It's an American military base in Cuba, where they send particularly bad criminals.
If it's American, then why is it in Cuba?
That's a very good question. When I'm not there's a whole bunch of history and politics behind it that I am not
Let's just say the
aware of.
geopolitics
I'm pulling a piece
of
of
Cuba is
beer
very,
out.
very complicated and probably beyond the scope of today's episode.
And indeed beyond the scope of my understanding. But so it says they've been taken
So
to
in the end, the answer is flatulent.
the special prison in Cuba, and in fact they've not just been locked up there, but they've been executed there. But the reason why they're still out is that they've been cloned, and their clones are walking around. When you say clones, you have to raise your eyebrows like that every time.
What?
Like this?
Clones, yeah.
Clones?
So what do you think of the idea
Clones.
that public figures have been cloned using technology that we don't even know of?
You needed to raise your eyebrows.
Oh, sorry, did I
Also,
say
there
clones and not
was a
raise my
really
eyebrows?
good Donald Sutherland impression from
Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
which
yes.
is
Clowns.
Clowns and
Clowns.
send in the clone.
Pennywise. It's a
Although actually,
clone of
right, so doing the Pennywise thing is actually a great time to bring in Australian Prime Minister's wife, Jenny Morrison.
Now, do you know who Scott Morrison is?
No.
No, fair enough, quite frankly. He's the current Prime Minister of Australia.
Do you know,
Australia goes through Prime Ministers
do you
fairly
know
quickly.
where Australia is?
Yes.
Well, there you go, it's a start.
So he's the Prime Minister of that country. And it turns out there's a person who's really big into this whole QAnon stuff and all the wacky theories, and he is quite good friends with the Prime Minister of Australia. And indeed, his wife... Hang on, my notes have gone silent because let me look at it. What's the deal? His wife works...
No, he's a
For-
long-term friend
Yeah.
of the wife from childhood.
Yes. And his wife works on the Prime Minister's staff.
I'm bored.
Good. Get used to it.
Unfortunately, you've probably got about
Yes!
80 more years of this to go
Yeah.
through, so frankly, you have to get used to it now.
But I can't. I'm a baby.
No.
Yeah, but one day...
Get a baby.
Unfortunately, one day you won't be a baby. One day you'll be an adult, then you'll have to go to work, and you'll kind of loathe what you do, and things will just be interminable, and you'll pray for sweet flatulent release.
No, and then one day I'll have to die. Then sadly, I'll have to stop farting.
Oh no!
No.
You can
Oh,
keep
wait.
farting in death.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yes.
It's okay.
After... Yep, it is a thing.
In fact, actually, it's quite easy to fart when you're dead. People who are dead fart all the
all
time.
the gases just release
We went from Prime Ministers to
to fighting dead
farting.
people. Well, should we go back to the Prime Minister? Because this is an
Or at least
update.
the Prime Minister's wife.
Yes, this is an update. So, the Guardian newspaper in England, had an article this month. Can I read my notes,
lots.
please? I
That
know.
is so
That's
much.
because we do research. We're professionals, only we're not, because we don't get paid for this, but you know what I mean.
You could pay us more for quality content like this by going to our Patreon or Podbean
Can they see
patron
me?
thing.
Yeah, see, that's the camera right there.
Oh, and
No.
Don't
That
disturb
will
the
work
set.
out poorly.
Don't disturb the set.
So there's this guy. Now, the Guardian article makes a point of not naming him. I assume if you looked around different sites, you could probably find out the dude's name, but I assume possibly for privacy reasons or something, they don't want to dump this private citizen right away. But the point is, there's this guy who goes by the name of Burned Spy 34.
This is on Twitter.
On Twitter. Who's a leading QAnon figure, keeps going on about Julie Bishop, former Prime Minister Julie Bishop, and other Alexander Downer.
I mean, I know it gets very confusing about who's been Prime Minister of the...
Foreign Minister of
Yes,
Foreign
yeah.
Affairs Minister, Australian politician.
I mean, she literally might be Prime Minister now.
Well, exactly.
Given that you can never keep track
No.
of Australian Prime
Could
Ministers
be
at the best of
as we
time
speak.
anyway.
Yeah. So he's a long-standing family friend of the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison and his wife Jenny, and the wife of Burned Spy 34 works on the Prime Minister's staff. And people have sort of said, well, okay, like, he's a friend of the Prime Minister, he's not involved in the government, he doesn't, you know, as far as we know, he's just a mate, he doesn't have any real influence, but still... He's like a real hardcore QAnoner. He's the one who talks about all the finding hidden symbols in photographs. Apparently, anytime someone wears red shoes,
It's
that's
a
some sort of
pedophile
it's a
shout-out.
symbol. Anytime there was a photo of a guy, of Scott Morrison or someone holding a wombat, and apparently that was significant and refers to Operation Wombat, which is a thing they just made up. I don't even know.
Although actually that does sound like the kind of thing that Australians would name a military parade. Operation Wombat's going ahead. Okay. That wasn't even an Australian accent.
Operation Wombat.
I don't know what accent that was.
But you said ochre at the end. So
It's
that
true.
makes
It's
it,
true.
That makes it
Maybe.
Australian.
In the same way that I could, hello, I'm Canadian. What's that about?
A boot.
And that immediately makes it a Canadian.
They say a boat, though.
Well,
It's
actually,
not a boot, it's a boat.
I had this debate with my Canadian office mate the other day, and I tried to insist to her that actually she's wrong, but of course she's Canadian, so of course she was actually right.
About what was her
A boat.
a boat?
Me.
A boat.
Yeah, but they
A
do
boat?
say a.
Although actually so do we.
Well, we do, but we say it differently.
We say soda.
Soda a.
I said soda. Wasn't soda.
So far, we've established that although these children don't know who Bill Clinton is, they do know what the Clinton point is.
Which is an amazing bit of cultural transmission.
Is actually because, I know why they know this too, because in Gravity Falls, the cartoon Gravity Falls, there's an episode where people run for mayor, and one of the guys in his mayoral speech does the Clinton point, and we pointed that out to them and say, that's the Clinton point, that thing he's doing, that's why it's funny. So even though you don't know who Bill Clinton is, you know what the Clinton point is.
Yes.
So that's one recent development in QAnon.
And I should point out, the reason why this even became a story was there was a publicity shot of the Prime Minister, his wife, and their children late last week, where it did appear that Jenny Morrison was doing the OK symbol, which led to people going, why is the Prime Minister's wife doing an alt-right hand gesture? People went, oh, that's ridiculous. There's no reason to think she's got that in mind. It's probably just an accident. And then someone went, yeah, but Julie Morrison's best friend from childhood is a prominent QAnoner who's been praised by the QAnon community mods on 8chan as one of their most brilliant researchers. So it's actually not out of the question there's been contamination.
Everybody, watching the camera.
For our podcast listeners at home, Lucas is now eating my hand.
Actually, I should say, for the podcast listeners at home, this is probably an episode to actually watch on Josh's YouTube
possibly
channel.
More. Lucas, will you please stop eating my hand? The OK thing is still a little bit...
We discussed that before camera time.
Yeah.
Although I kind of did encourage eating the hand.
He did kind of encourage... you are literally biting the hand that feeds you, Lucas. That's what you're doing right now.
It's not a metaphor,
It's not a metaphor.
It's actually real.
I do give you food with my hands that you are currently biting.
Can't you afford plates?
I prepare the food with my hands. And sometimes give it to them with my hands if it's like a pizza or something like that.
You give it to us in a bowl with in the plate like this, then you serve it and then it's like 5 eggs. Fake slap. No.
Flatulent. Join in on this.
I'm chubby.
Now here's one to wrap your round around, Jake. Now you know the OK symbol. If you know something's OK.
Josh is just doing an alt-right symbol on camera.
Well,
now.
that's the thing. So a bunch of people said, aha, we're going to secretly make it so the OK symbol is actually the symbol of nasty alt-right white supremacy bad people.
Nazis.
We're going to say that this is actually, we're using this as a secret symbol, so even though they knew it's a symbol that everybody uses, so that when other people use it, they could say, haha, it's not really that symbol. And first it was a joke, and now it's not. And now some people know about it, but a whole lot of people don't. And so now it's got to the point where people do the OK symbol, and then other people say, actually, that's not right symbol anymore. And then those people say, no, it's not, don't be silly, it's been around forever. And then other people say, but no, it is being used like that, and therefore it's been tarred by association with them. And basically nobody knows if this is a good symbol or a bad symbol anymore.
A good symbol.
In other words, the symbol means flatulence.
Exactly. Exactly.
Alt-right flatulence. You heard it here, folks.
Now, everybody, what? I'll do the dab.
Yeah.
Yep, that's some quality dabbing there, Lucas.
Listeners, it wasn't.
We are discovering that putting a 6-year-old in front of a camera produces variable results.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lucas. Now, one thing I should say, guys. While we are filming this with a camera, we're also recording it with a microphone, and most of the people who consume this podcast do so by listening to the sound recording of it, not by watching the video.
Yeah, at which point you've actually just wasted your time.
So
you need to find a way to doing an acoustic dab.
Yes. What's the sound of a dab?
The sound of a dab goes dab.
No, the sound of a dab goes meow.
No,
Meow,
it goes
meow,
dab.
meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow.
No.
It occurs to me, Joshua, this is going to be a great video to show at someone's 21st.
Yeah. I think you're right. So where were we? QAnon. Does it make any sense to you at all, Jake?
No.
Fair enough.
I mean, it does make
Okay,
sense to
well,
most
it does
adults.
a little
either.
bit, but not really.
So, which bit does make sense, out of curiosity?
Flatulence.
No,
Not
that's
actually part of the
that
theory,
makes
truth be
sense.
told, but Fuck.
Yum, 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 yum! Was funny. Everybody, guys, do you think it's funny? I'm breaking the fourth wall right now.
You are breaking the fourth wall. But
I'm
since
actually
this
quite
is-
curious to know whether we're going to lose or gain patrons for this particular episode.
We have patrons people who give us a small amount of money each month.
Okay, sure.
No, that's actually
That's
true.
actually true. That's a
Wait,
thing.
what?
Yep.
Okay.
There are.
Yep, because we have costs associated with running. We have to
Where do
pay
you think
for the
we
website.
have to pay for lights?
We have to get these special lights and all that sort of stuff.
microphones.
And so in exchange for them giving us a small amount of money a month, we provide them with entertaining and informational content. And that hasn't been happening so much this week. But that's okay.
Especially this episode. Very interesting.
I think it's interesting.
Well, I think it's interesting too.
Who thinks this is interesting? I think it's interesting.
Do you think it's interesting?
Oh, was that the wrong
Now that's
one?
quality content.
It is.
Hey, I think this is interesting.
Were you going
Wait,
to...
that's the wrong one.
Although I should point out, we've now gone from talking about conspiracy theories to talking about the nature of podcasting itself and our audience, which either means we've run out of content or things have got very meta very
A
quickly.
little bit. Now, there was one thing, though. The thing I wanted to point out, one thing. Do you reckon you could read all of this, Jack? Or do you want me to read it out?
You read
Okay,
that.
I'll read
Can
it.
I read it?
So there is one of the reasons why we decided to talk about QAnon today is because there have been a couple of interesting recent developments. There's been the whole Scott Morrison connection, but there's also you keep abreast of QAnon, do you?
Good kitty.
Kind of. I used to keep abreast of it a lot more in the early days, but now it really is just repetition of the same claim
Well,
again and
exactly.
again and again. And go, no, the evidence definitely says that John McCain didn't die of cancer, but was actually put in prison, and the body double died of cancer. And at some point they're going to have to explain how Trump turned up to a funeral for John McCain because he's actually in prison. And Trump put him there, so he knows that John McCain isn't dead. And there must have been some clue in a tie he wore when he went to the funeral. And we don't understand what Michelle Obama was doing when she was sitting next to Barack Obama and hugging George W. Bush. And then Ellen went to a baseball game with George W. Bush, and I'm not quite sure whether Ellen knows about the storm. It's getting very confusing.
Because
It's
I haven't...
getting very shocking right now.
It
Hey
is.
guys, do you think it's getting shocking?
These guys saw the Dora the Explorer movie last week, so that could possibly explain some of the "what do you think" straight to camera.
Yeah, that was Lucas's idea.
Fair enough. But so I don't really pay any more attention to QAnon
Everybody
than I am
knows.
absolutely
They're just
forced
ran
to.
a knife to school.
But we're not
George,
at
would you
school.
like to explain that comment for the audience?
I don't think I
It's
can.
from Dora the Explorer.
Was it?
I'm tiny mini Dora.
Okay.
Can you say Dora?
So the point is, I don't pay much attention to QAnon. So every now and then, when it does sort of bubble up into my awareness, I'm surprised at just how loopy it's always been loopy, but it just manages to keep getting loopier. And so that was where the whole execution replaced with clone thing is. So apparently, one person was put out this announcement. On 29th of September 2019, Obama was executed by firing squad at Gitmo. 3 US generals were present at the execution, and Obama was allowed a private meeting with a Muslim cleric prior to execution. Obama had refused to give any more information, and alliance sources believe he may have been the main instigator of the current impeachment debacle currently in progress. He's been in prison, but he's also started the impeachment.
Oh, apparently he's been allowed to have communication with outside sources throughout the entire time.
Sorry, I should have kept reading because
should
then it
have
says Obama had been in contact with the so-called whistleblower despite being on 24-hour watch at Gitmo. That's not a very good 24-hour watch. The alliance concluded a search and found an Iridium satellite phone hidden in one of Obama's pillows.
What does Iridium mean?
Iridium is a fancy kind of battery, isn't it? Does that mean... Oh, no, that's lithium.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know what an Iridium satellite phone is. The alliance immediately ordered execution, and Obama began whimpering and pleading, claiming John Kerry put
Oh, that John Kerry.
That John
What do they do
Kerry.
next?
What a
Oh,
scam.
John Kerry.
He was another white guy who tried to be president one time.
I'm a
Gitmo
white
was at
house.
full capacity, and Obama was bunking it with
Where
John
are you,
Kerry
Dad?
and Chris Christopherson, who is an actor and singer. I'm not sure why he gets lumped in there.
Dad, where I
Who
am.
was charged with being an MKK Ultra agent. As for what is to become of the Obama clone, clone, eyebrows raised, currently doing the rounds in the United States. The Alliance would not say this clone is believed to be malfunctioning anyway, so they may take a wait-and-see approach. So that's where QAnon is at the moment. People have been not just arrested and given ankle bracelets, they've been taken to Guantanamo Bay, executed, and replaced with clones, and that's why we still see them walking around.
Now, the question I put to you, people, is Chris Christopherson, who's wandering around producing music and presumably appearing in theatrical productions, a clone? And does that explain Blade 3?
Did you raise your eyebrows? Your daddy big eyebrows?
What?
I surely did when I said clone.
I'm pretty sure he did.
No,
Possibly.
He went like, clowns?
No, see, that's the I'm giving you a clue as I'm talking wink.
I'm winking.
Yeah,
That's really more blinking, but never mind.
and also people can't hear you blink on a podcast.
I know.
Yeah. In fact, it's a well-known fact that on podcasts no one can hear you blink.
Yes.
Everyone can hear me blink. Blink! Blink!
So that's QAnon.
For kids.
For kids. And I think you'll agree with me that it's a difficult task to tell what is sillier, the current state of QAnon or everything my children have said just now in this episode.
Including
flatulence. I would argue that fart jokes are considerably less silly than QAnon.
I have a really terrible
high art
joke.
form. What is your terrible joke, please, Lucas?
Why did the chicken cross the road?
Why did the chicken cross the road? Was it because of QAnon?
No, because it wanted to meet Donald Trump, the person who sucks that fart, and that got replaced by a clown!
Well, there you go. Biting political commentary there from my 6-year-old son. Donald Trump sucks at farts and was replaced by a clone.
Ladies and gentlemen, the new John Oliver.
John Oliver.
Can Jack and me stop talking?
You can stop talking anytime you want, buddy.
I want to stop talking. Talk. No. Talk. No.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the podcast of Guide to the Conspiracy. It's been an experience. Join us next time when we decide to talk about the Frost-Nixon debate with children.
Yes.
Talk.
Until then, unfortunately, the school holidays start again next week, so I'm afraid my children will be at school and unable to partake in any more podcasts.
But you know, if you start funding us to very large sums, such as thousands a month, we can put these children to homeschooling and do every single episode with a child.
Every day, a new episode.
Wait, no. Every Thursday, you can just say, Lucas and Jack are going to, be
I would
really
do that if
sick
it was on a
today
Wednesday.
because it's really cold. I'm good.
Okay.
Goodbye,
And he's
everybody.
gone, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye.
I'm gonna leave as well. I'm gonna go somewhere.
Right.
Excellent pursuit by a bear. You've been listening to the Podcaster's Guide to the Conspiracy, starring Josh Addison and Dr. M.R.X. Denton, which is written, researched, recorded, and produced by Josh and M. You can support the podcast by becoming a patron via its Podbean or Patreon campaigns. And if you need to get in contact with either Josh or M, you can email them at podcastconspiracy@gmail.com or check their Twitter accounts, Monkey Fluids and Conspiracism. And remember, they're coming to get you, Barbara. I'm going to clap, then we'll have 5 seconds of silence, and then the talking can resume. Well, that didn't work. Let's try that one more time.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think we can be quiet?
Okay.
Just for a short while, then you can make as much noise as you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who knew clapping was so funny?
Yep.
Okay, let me clap this time.
Maybe 2 seconds of silence.